I don't like Coke.
Yeah.
You have any nice time then?
Black gold.
It's going to be stuffing away then.
Yeah.
Finish your
Yeah,
banana.
finish my banana.
Fabulous. Right, brilliant. So we've set up our volunteers, and in half an hour's time we're going to retake their blood sugar levels, because today's lesson is all about balancing your blood sugar levels, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So how did the detox go, guys? Now, those people who didn't come last week, you are going to start your detox from today, and you'll just detox and put in place the eating regime, which I'm going to lay out for you. So it's fine, you're just going to do an overlap. But how, the rest of you, any headaches?
Yeah, a few at the beginning.
A few at the beginning. Here?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Not very
Well,
dull.
Just dull ones, that's
Yeah.
right. Liver ones tend to be here. So if you get detox headaches, it tends to be here, and it's your liver cleaning itself out. So that's great. But shocking, isn't it? So you cut out
Alcohol, milk,
organic,
almost
yeah,
completely
organic
actually,
milk.
but I did have a little bit of organic milk. What was the other thing? Sugar,
Caffeine.
caffeine,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Red meat.
That was a bit more difficult to do.
That's okay. You didn't have to. You only had to cut out
Yeah.
3. So,
So,
you've done
and
your
then I
3.
kind of gave up a few other bits as well. I found it quite easy actually.
Good. And you drank lots of water. Did you all
I'm
drink
trying
lots of
to.
water?
I'm drinking
Yeah.
more than I
Probably not
did,
as good.
but I am
Not as
trying
much.
with that.
Excellent.
Actually, could you show? Because this is really good. That's a litre, and actually
Yes.
that doesn't look too bad.
No.
I've been buying myself these big bottles and thinking, oh, I can never get
Yeah,
that.
I
think it's
like
made
big
like
That's
bottles.
that.
actually
Stack up.
psychologically, you can
Yeah.
actually manage 2 of those.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, you
good.
can fill that
Yeah.
high because it's more expensive to buy them like that.
Yeah,
Buy the
probably,
big
but if you
ones.
just buy one and then...
Yes, and fill it up.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else get headaches? You got
Oh,
headaches?
badly, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because
You were a bit of a caffeine fanatic,
yeah,
weren't you?
I wondered how you got some. You had quite a lot of tea.
I had
as well,
loads of tea, but for me it wasn't necessarily the tea I was after, I think it was the sugar.
Right.
Yes.
That, because I'm, awful with cakes and
Yeah.
sweets and sugar in my tea. So I really craved the sugar the first couple of days.
Did you cut sugar out completely, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Well done.
Just because I thought if I'm doing it,
You
You
might
just
as
do it
well
all.
go the whole
Yeah.
hog,
So
yeah.
because the first day I thought, I don't feel too bad, I'm not having coffee or tea. I feel okay. And then Gregor actually emailed me and said, how are you doing? And I said, I've not had any tea and coffee, I feel fine. He said, well, you might get a headache. In fact, you will get a headache. And then literally about half an hour later, it's like boom.
Bang.
And I was like, and I went and had a cup of tea, and then 10 minutes later I was fine.
But isn't
So
it interesting?
yeah, it is. I was quite
Isn't
shocked
it
actually that
shocking?
as soon as I had a cup of tea, my headache started. I had
That's
black
it.
spots in front of my eyes, and then my headache started to go.
Yeah, because these things are,
It's amazing.
they're drugs basically. They
Yeah.
are addictive, and they load the body with toxins. So your fat cells will, because you haven't been taking that caffeine in and that alcohol in and so on, will have been letting go of the toxins, the water and the fat that store the toxins in the fat cells, and that's what you're feeling is the headache. It comes into the blood, the liver has to cleanse that, and basically you're walking around with kind of dirty blood for a while, and that's what gives you the headaches. So your fat cells will be much more prepared now to start to shrink, and that's what we want. Okay, shrunken fat cells.
No pain, no gain.
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so. Yes, it is a little bit like that. Good. Have you all done your exercise? Yeah. I've got supposed to weigh you, haven't I? I'll do it. Yeah. Okay. So you all did your 20 minutes or more in your case 3 times a week. Fabulous. That's really good. Really, really good. And you've been drinking your water. So, right. So we'll move on, and we're going to talk all about sugar today. So, I just need to find these. And I need my beater. So do you remember me telling you that if you are overweight, or you feel tired all the time, or you get headaches all the time, or whatever, it's because your body is out of balance. And your body is really like a balancing machine. It's balancing all the time. As you sit here in this room, you are breathing oxygen in, you are breathing carbon dioxide out, and you are balancing the amount of oxygen and CO2 in your blood every second of your life. You're also balancing your body temperature, so it's quite warm in here, so you don't know it, but your blood capillaries will be rising to the surface of your skin to allow heat to be let off. If it was colder in here, those capillaries would then shrink back away from the skin to preserve your body temperature, because your body temperature has to be maintained in a very small band. And this is the same with a lot of different other body functions that are going on. But the one we're really interested in today is your blood sugar levels, which really, if we were very accurate, would be called your blood glucose levels. And I'm going to teach you how to balance those, because unless you do balance them, you won't be able to lose weight, and you certainly won't get rid of any sugar cravings that any of you have got. And by the end of this lesson, you'll really understand why. So in order to understand blood sugar levels, you have to understand how carbohydrates are metabolized. Okay? So carbohydrates are our energy, or rather our carbohydrates all break down into glucose, and glucose is our fuel. What petrol is to a car, glucose is to our body. So as I moved my hands from here to here, I was using glucose in order to do that. And that's what carbohydrates give us. So there's two types of carbohydrate. They break into two. We have starch and we have sugar, what we call sugar. Okay? So your starches are potatoes. That's an example of a starch. Pasta, good one. Yeah, pasta and rice. Your grains are starch, exactly. And then on this here you have your sugar. And of course, sugar is, we think of sugar as the white stuff that we put in cakes, and we put it in biscuits and chocolate. So we'll call that just sugar. It's actually sucrose. But we also have sugar in other things, don't we?
Fruit.
Fruit. That's right, exactly. That's where it occurs naturally. And honey is the other natural form of sugar. So those are three examples of a sugar version of carbohydrates. But those two types of carbohydrate, once they have been processed in the digestive system, they both end up as glucose. Okay? Both of them. So your potatoes end up as glucose, as well as your honey ending up as glucose. That's important to remember for this next bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a journey of two sample breakfasts as they travel through the digestive system. So we're going to start off with breakfast A, all right? So that is a photograph of a poached egg on rye bread. Okay, so let's analyse that first of all. Let's take the rye bread to start off with. That's predominantly carbohydrates, but it's what we call a complex carbohydrate. So that means that the farmer has harvested his rye, and that's gone straight to the mill, and the whole grain, with the hard fibrous bit on the outside and the soft starchy bit on the inside, has been milled down. That's what whole grain means. It means you've got the outside, which is fibrous, and the inside, which is where the starch is. Both of those are in that rye bread. Okay, that's a complex carbohydrate. And then you've got your poached egg, which is predominantly protein. There's a bit of fat in there too, but we'll ignore the fat bit because that gets too complicated. So the egg is protein. So we've got a protein and a complex carbohydrate. So let's say you're having that for breakfast. Am I still in range?
Okay.
So what you do is you put that, a mouthful in your mouth, and you start chewing it. Now in the mouth, you've got an alkaline environment. And that alkaline environment activates an enzyme in your mouth which starts to break down the carbohydrates. Only the carbohydrate will be digested in your mouth, right? The egg gets mushed around a bit, but only the rye bread will get broken down in your mouth. And then you swallow it, and it comes into the stomach. Now, alkaline in the mouth, but in the stomach, we know from all those adverts with firemen sort of hosing Gaviscon on flames that we have acid, yes? So when the mouthful gets into the stomach, the digestion of the rye bread stops completely, and that's when the poached egg starts to get a look in, because protein needs an acid environment in order to be broken down, okay? So that mouthful will then stop in the stomach in order for the poached egg to be broken down. And then once that's happened, that whole sort of gloop will then move into the small intestines, which is this bit here. And because it's all been broken down into simpler molecules, this is when the small intestines starts to do the last bit of digestion. Now, I like to liken the small intestines to one of those kind of science geeks, okay? My sister was one of these, and she loved puzzles. And the more difficult the puzzle, the more satisfied she was. And if you got a puzzle for her for Christmas and it wasn't complicated enough, she would be, she'd dismiss it. I'm not going to do that, it's too easy. And your intestine is like that. It needs a good, complicated puzzle. It loves it. So this is a really complicated puzzle because it's got to separate the protein from the carbohydrate, first of all. Then it's got to separate the fibrous bit from of the grain from the soft starchy bit from the grain. Then it's got to take the starch and it's got to break it down into complex sugars and then finally into simple sugars. Now all of that takes time. So it's already taken time in the stomach, and then it takes even longer in the small intestines. Now why I'm telling you all of this is because what happens if your food goes slowly through your digestive system is that the blood, the sugar, the end result, will be passing nice and slowly from the gut into the bloodstream. Okay, nice and slowly, a little dribble, and then another little dribble, and another little dribble. So, your blood sugar level should be between 4 and 6. That is the safe band in which your sugar in your blood should be, all right? So let's say you have your breakfast at 7 o'clock, so this is time along the bottom, and this is your micrograms of glucose per microliter of blood, or something like that. I can't remember how they measure it, but it's something like that. So 7 o'clock, you eat that breakfast, and your blood sugar levels will slowly start to rise like this. They'll peak at 6, and they'll start to come down by about lunchtime, okay? When you will feel pleasantly hungry. So you will then have a lunch of, let's say, I don't know, what can we say, a piece of chicken with some salad and maybe some brown rice. So that's complex carbohydrates with protein, and your blood sugar levels will rise nice and slowly, and down they'll come, and by dinner time you will be hungry again. Okay? This is good, balanced blood sugar levels, nice and even, which will mean that you'll have steady energy all the way through the day, because remember, glucose is your energy food. You all got that. This is very scientific, isn't it? But it's important that you understand this. Now let's take breakfast B. Okay. And I saw some sort of breakfast Bs on some of your food diaries. Okay, I won't mention any names. But breakfast B is jam on white bread. Okay. So what have we got here? Well, white bread's had all the brown bit taken out, it's had all the fibre taken out, and all that remains is the soft starchy bit, which is why when you chew white bread it goes all pappy really quickly, doesn't it? It's not like eating whole grain bread, is it? It sort of goes all gooey. So we've got a refined carbohydrate, no fibre in there, and then on top of it we've got sugar, exactly. So we've got a carbohydrate, sugar version of carbohydrate, on a refined carbohydrate, carb on carb. Okay, this is very typical of a lot of people's breakfasts. So what then happens, if we go back to my diagram, is in goes the mouthful of jam on white bread, and it gets chewed up, and the enzymes are activated by the alkali, and you chew it up. And then you swallow it, and it comes into the stomach. Now what happens there? Nothing. Exactly. Absolutely nothing. So your jam on white bread whizzes through your stomach because there's no protein in there to make it have to stop and in the acid environment to be broken down. So it whizzes through your stomach, then it comes into the small intestines. And the geek has a look at this, and it does what my sister did when I used to give her a puzzle. It's too easy. It's like, so it's really easy for it to get the sugar out of the white, pappy, starch-only bread because there's no fibre there. It doesn't have to divide those up. And it's really easy to get the sugar out of the jam because it's almost, isn't it, glucose. It's just about, you know, in its sort of final form. So that means that it doesn't take very long for the geek to break it down in your intestines, which means the sugar goes very fast into your bloodstream. So we're eating this at 7 o'clock, and literally what will happen very fast is your blood sugar levels will come up to about there. I'm not joking, they really will. And the body knows that that is dangerous. This is what happens to diabetics. They mostly have their blood sugar levels up here, and it damages the nerve endings, which then they can go blind. It can damage the nerve endings in their hands and their feet. They get numb hands and feet. It's not a nice disease. So the body knows this. That's dangerous. It's in crisis. Your body is in crisis by about 9 o'clock in the morning. So what happens is your pancreas, which is an organ just here, secretes lots of insulin. You've heard of insulin because that's what diabetics take. It secretes lots of insulin into the blood, usually too much. It's sort of a bit like it oversteers. You know, in a car, if you steer too much that way, when you are learning, you tend to steer too much that way. And it releases too much insulin, and down your blood sugar levels plummet. Okay, by 11 o'clock, you're beginning to recognise this. So what happens at 11 o'clock?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry. And what do you usually reach for if you've had that?
Something similar to
Yeah.
that.
You reach for something sweet, don't you? Now you might think, I'm so weak-willed, I always go for the biscuits at 11 o'clock. No, you're not. Your body's in crisis. You're having a crash. You might feel a little bit faint, a little bit lightheaded, possibly start getting a headache, feel grumpy. So you reach for the biscuits because your body needs you to bring your blood sugar levels up into this band as quickly as possible. So you will want to eat something which is pure sugar, readily available sugar. But then what happens is you overshoot and you come up here. And so then the pancreas releases a lot of insulin, and down you crash again by lunchtime. So you grab, I don't know, a donut and a can of Coke and, I don't know, a white bread sandwich, and up they go. And you do that the whole day long. And what will happen is you'll get sugar highs when you'll feel a little bit like this, and you'll get sugar lows, which is when you just want to go to sleep and you can't keep your eyes open and you're feeling really drowsy, so you have your can of Coke and up they go again, and you're feeling all sort of hyped up again. And that is what happens. So if you eat that kind of breakfast, you will not get in control of your blood sugar levels for the whole day. You will be out of control. So you might have the best of intentions. You're thinking, I'm going to be really good today, I'm not going to snack, I'm not going to have biscuits, I'm not going to have a cup of tea and a piece of cake in the afternoon. But you do that and you won't stand a chance, basically, because your body is in crisis and it will make you eat the things that it needs in order to desperately try and stay in that band. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
What would happen if you had your egg before, and then you had a piece of toast and marmalade after that? So you've got a combination.
Yeah, but it would be better because your marmalade wouldn't go quite so quickly into your blood sugar levels, into your blood sugar, into your veins, basically. Yeah, but it's still not a good idea to eat sugar at breakfast. It really isn't, unfortunately. I'm going to tell you what to eat for breakfast, such that you will stay full for much longer. The other thing I forgot to tell you is this here, that crisis bit, all that excess sugar, this bit, this here, is enough to feed your cells. So you're putting that glucose in and your cells will open up and let that glucose in, and if it's your muscle cells, then their muscles will be able to move and your brain will be able to think and so on and so forth. But this is extra. Your body doesn't need it. So what it does is it dumps it in your fat cells. Do you remember your fat cells are the cupboard under the stairs? Yeah? Or the spare room, that place where you dump anything that the body can't cope with on a daily basis. So not only is it going to dump the toxins from your 6 cups of tea a day in your fat cells, but it's also going to dump all that excess sugar as well. So again, if you're doing this, it's going to be very difficult for your body to then release what's in those fat cells. Sugar also, if that hasn't convinced you, is a drug. It follows the same pathways in your brain as cocaine and heroin, and it's highly addictive. It's also what we call a mood food. How are we doing for time?
It's got a while.
Okay. So that means that, well, as I've said, when you eat it, you can start feeling stressed and panicking. If that wasn't enough, people who have high insulin levels tend to lose their memory younger than those people who don't. So it's quite a major cause of Alzheimer's is high insulin levels throughout your life, obviously. It's not just once or twice. It also, it attaches to the collagen in your skin, and it tends to give you wrinkles and saggy skin as well. It disturbs your sleep, and also cancer, tumours, are sugar feeders. The only food that cancer eats is sugar. So again, another reason why not to eat too much sugar is because cancer loves it, basically. Okay? Good. So I've thoroughly put you off sugar, haven't I? Good. So I'm going to give you your packs, and we'll have a little look at where that sugar's coming from, and also how to balance your blood sugar levels. Sorry, they're very thick, these packs are, because our printer decided it couldn't do back to back. Thank you. Here we go. 4 minutes. Okay, well, we'll take that 4 because I just want to give them a chance to really peak. So if you have a look at page 2, there's a lovely colourful pie chart. Because you're probably thinking, well, that's all right, I'll give up my biscuits and I'll give up my cakes and so on and so forth. But let's just have a look at this. it's got certain foods, and the teaspoon is a kind of it's a unit. I think it's about 5 grams, something like. No, I think it's about 1 gram. So our glass of wine and our 1 square of chocolate have got about 1 gram of sugar in, or 1 teaspoonful of sugar. But when we get round to our banana, that's got 6 teaspoonfuls in. It's a different type of sugar, but still, what this is a demonstrate or an illustration of is how much sugar the body will get out of that particular food, how much glucose it can extract from it. So it can extract 6 teaspoonfuls from a banana. By the time Special K, that's a good one, isn't it? That's another 6 teaspoonfuls of sugar. So do not believe that lady in her red swimsuit. It's all a con. Also, if you notice with breakfast cereals, when you pour your milk on, how they go soggy, that's because they've got no fibre in them. That's why they don't, they don't stay together. If you put milk on muesli, it doesn't go soggy, does it?
No.
So, and most of your breakfast cereals, except for shredded wheat, they all have sugar in. So Weetabix has added sugar. Bran flakes have added sugar, and quite a lot as well, around about somewhere between 12 and 20 grams of sugar in a portion of Weetabix or cornflakes. Coke is up to 7. Mashed potatoes, that's a whopping 8 teaspoonfuls of sugar, of glucose that the body can extract from a bowl of mashed potatoes. And white rice is even worse. And the reason these are so high is because, for the white rice, because the fiber's been taken off it, been taken away from it. So that sugar is very
So
readily
what would be in brown rice then?
That will be better because it's got so
So
much
it's got-
fibre in it.
It's still got the husk on the...
That's right, exactly.
Takes
Yes.
longer.
So it's the
to-
same as
yeah.
the rye bread, is it?
Yes, exactly. It's a
Same
complex
theory.
carbohydrate.
Right.
Yes, brown pasta would be the same as well, complex carbohydrate. It makes it much more difficult for the geek to extract the glucose from it. So I'm going to teach you how to eat in order to keep your geek very satisfied. So I think we ought to do the blood
5.6.
might be quite interesting to do you again in another half an hour.
Yeah.
And
I've got
then
another Mars bar there.
5 to 7.5.
5 points to 7.5.
Wow.
That's got a big picture.
that's quite a lot, isn't it, in half an hour?
Is it 50%?
So both Larry and Heather, you are, you're sort of up here now, beyond what is comfortable for your body. So your pancreas will be scrabbling
I
around.
do feel a bit funny in my head actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You haven't got anything else to eat?
Yeah, I've got some soup actually. So
Have you?
Yeah,
Do you want you
no.
eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
even though we're getting weighed, is that okay? I'd rather just take off half a pound.
Before your sleep.
Actually, yeah, you can eat it. That's great, thank you. That's lovely. Thank you.
So are you saying, Hannah, then that we should normally be between about 4 and 6? Right.
Yeah. That's your kind of safe band.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I say, it varies from one person to another. So
Because would you be able to test your own glucose levels at any point? I mean, it was just that this week I happened to go on a work course and it ended up all being about nutrition.
Did it?
6 hours of nutrition, which was all very timely. And one thing that she said was that every year you should be very aware of your waist measurement, your blood pressure, your glucose levels. And there was one other, I can't remember what the fourth one was now actually. Your weight, but she was saying above weight it should really be a waist measurement.
That's right.
And I was just thinking, well, we used to have an annual check with Bupa at work,
Yeah.
but I think Bupa have cut back now and you don't get that annual check anymore.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, well, do you just go to your doctor and say, I'd like these 4 taken every year? Or should you be doing...
Yes, you can do that, but you can do your own blood sugar levels. I mean, I got this online. It's just a
Oh,
little
right,
thing
okay.
like this, and you get these little strips which you stick in the bottom, and you put the blood on it,
Yeah.
and you can do your own. So actually, what I recommend, I have diabetic patients who have not been recommended by the doctors to get one of these. I don't know why, but they haven't. And I recommend them to get one and then take their blood sugar levels before they eat, take their blood sugar levels after they eat, and see which meal spikes their blood sugar level and which one doesn't. Because, you know, you can really tailor make your diet to your own way your blood responds to different types of food. So yeah, it's quite fun actually. You get a very sore thumb, you know, if you do it every day, but it's quite interesting. Yeah, because if the doctor did it, you'd have to do what's called a fasting blood sugar test, which means you go to the hospital, you haven't eaten for 12 hours since the night before, and then they take your blood sugar levels. I think then they give you some food and they see what happens.
I had that when I was pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was over a certain age. I had to have a glucose test. Yeah,
So they would have been testing for gestational diabetes.
yeah, basically, yeah. So took my blood at like 9 in the morning, and then you drink 200 mils of Lucozade, which is awful. Yeah, and then you go back and have it taken, and then they give you back a biscuit, which doesn't really help.
A pack of biscuits?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a very, that would
No,
just,
they kind of walk
you
around
kind
with
of
it.
walk out
Yeah,
feeling.
the baby's just like doing somersaults, basically.
Yeah, that's true. The
Yeah.
baby would be affected.
Because it's at 28 weeks, so you know you can
Yeah.
you can feel it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's find out what you're going to do in order to balance your blood sugar levels, because really the way I'm going to teach you to eat, its primary, or one of its primary aims, is to balance your blood sugar levels, because I have found with all the other people that I've taught in the past that if you can balance your blood sugar levels, your whole appetite will stabilise. You'll be a different person. You won't recognise yourself, because you won't recognise why you don't want things that you used to want. So if you turn to page 5, that's the one with the lady eating the strawberry at the top. We're going to go through the general rules. And I'm going to actually give you examples of meals, so don't panic if you don't understand some of this. It's all going to get clearer and clearer. So let's start off with number 1, which is to eat your most carbs for breakfast, less for lunch, and none for dinner. Okay. Now the reason for this is because, as I said, your glucose is your fuel. Amy, by the way, you don't have to do this, okay? This is mostly for weight loss, all right? But I'll adjust yours as we go along, okay? So your glucose is your fuel, isn't it? It's what makes you able to move. So as I said, it's like petrol is to a car. So if you were going to go on a long journey, let's say you were going to go on a 12-hour journey or a 14-hour journey, you would put the petrol in at the beginning of the journey, not at the end of the journey. Yeah? So if you're going to live a day of your life, you want to be putting your fuel food in at the beginning of the day and burning it, and by the end of the day, then you stop putting the fuel in, because if you put fuel in at the end of the day, your body you won't, unless you go for a 10k run after your dinner, you're not going to burn it off, you're going to just lay it down as fat during the night. Does that make sense? That's why this rule is. So no carbs for dinner. You've probably heard this. There are other eating regimes where they say don't eat carbs after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it works really, really well. And don't panic, you do get used to it. It's a lovely way of eating. If you don't eat potatoes with your evening meal, you don't get that sort of beached whale, sit on the tally kind of stodgy feeling. You can get up, you can do the ironing, you can read a book, you can do whatever you want afterwards. It doesn't stuff you like carbs do. The next one is I want you to leave 4 hours between meals. Now it takes, if you eat a meal with carbs and protein in, it takes the stomach and the small intestines, the stomach, about 4 hours to clear it. Okay, so if you graze if you keep putting food in, you know, every hour you go and wander into the kitchen, yeah, have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, your stomach never gets a chance to replenish its gastric juices. You're kind of putting food in when there is nothing there, or there's very little there to break it down. So you're not going to metabolize your food well. So you want to put your food in, let your stomach do its thing, and then put the food in once more. So every 4 hours. And this is one of the most important rules, especially for the weight loss people, is to leave the 4 hours between meals. So let's fill our little boxes in. So I'll use as an example, Lindsay, when do you have your breakfast?
Probably about 7:30.
7:30. So you would want to be eating your lunch at 11:30. That's right, isn't it? 7:30, 11:30. That's 4 hours. Now that might seem a little bit early to you, but
I'm hungry by then though.
exactly. So your stomach is saying,
Yeah.
I need more food.
But interestingly, it does totally back up what you were saying, because I was dreadful for having croissants and jam every morning for breakfast. And that was just my entire way of eating for the last 2 years.
Yes.
At least 2 croissants, not rather than 1. And then I'd get to 10 o'clock and think, a little bit peckish, I'll have a bourbon and a cup of tea. And then I'd have a white baguette for lunch. And since last Wednesday, I got your bread that you recommended from the market.
Oh, the rye bread, yeah.
And I only needed a tiny slice of that because it's quite filling.
It is, isn't it?
Whereas with white bread, I could have had a loaf quite happily.
Yeah.
Ploughed through a Franco-Belge loaf.
Yes. Yes.
So I had asparagus, a poached egg every morning.
Lovely.
And I
rye
didn't,
bread.
for the first time in my entire life, I haven't actually thought I need a biscuit. And it was like a revelation to me.
Exactly.
Because I've been
yes.
so used to being hungry
Yes.
and just grabbing the nearest thing.
Yes.
And looking at it in the chart, you think, oh yeah, but actually it was flabbergasting how quickly that changed my craving for sugar and a snack sort of mid-morning. And then it carried on throughout the day, because as long as I had a reasonable lunch, I didn't feel like I needed
You
that
just-
sugar hit, but I didn't crave it either.
Exactly. That's what I find every course I teach. That's something that I hear over and over and over again, that their cravings just disappear. And once your sugar cravings go, it's so much easier to eat healthily. And once you're eating healthily, it's so much easier to lose weight. So absolutely, thanks for telling us that, because that's really, because I think you were possibly, your way of life was possibly the most sugar loaded.
Yes.
And what I saw, I had a field day with yours. It's like, oh my god, oh no, not Angel Delight. That one really got me going. That one did things. I was on the internet. I
love
see how much
Angel
sugar there is.
Yeah.
in
Proper
it.
80s throwback. Oh, I love Angel Delight.
Oh my god, you do too much.
I didn't think
I can't even begin to tell you what's wrong with Angel
Nothing.
Can I just say that Gregor's mum, one of her speciality desserts is Angel Delight, right? With a crunchy bar, like loads of crunchy bars, basically crunched up and then put on the top with whipped cream.
Oh my god!
And obviously we're Scottish, so we also deep fry.
That's classic.
Can I just say something else that's dawning on me? This is more of a personal thing really, but I'm actually really horrified of what we feed Georgia. You know, she's 10 months. And you know, she gets like jelly, Angel Delight at nursery and stuff, and it's actually quite horrifying to think of all the stuff that she's getting now, that we feed her as well.
Yeah,
So-
you'd want to change that,
Yeah,
and I think as you go along, you'll probably see how to do that. But children have taste buds on the roofs of their mouths as well as on
Do
their
they?
tongues, which is why, you know, when they're babies, you can puree vegetables and you don't put any salt in, you don't put any sugar in, and they'll eat it, think it's absolutely the best thing, and you'll try it, and it's kind of like really bland. And that's because they can taste so much more in those pureed vegetables. And then if you start giving them sugar, you numb those taste buds. You know how if you if you eat something sweet and then you eat something like a vegetable, you can't taste it, can you? Because your taste buds have been numbed. And that's what happens to children. And then by about 2 or 3 or 4, they don't want vegetables any longer. And that's because they pretty much can't taste them. So don't worry, don't panic, you
Yeah.
can reverse it because George is tiny.
Yeah, she is.
So, you know, if you reverse it now, she won't have established those habits.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So let's go back to Lindsay's day. So she's having her breakfast at 7:30, she's having her lunch at 11:30, which means that she's going to then have a snack at 3:30. Okay, you're going to eat a 4-meal, you're going to eat 4 meals a day. The afternoon snack is as important as all your other meals. And the reason for that is because if you're having lunch, even if you're having lunch at 1, you're then not eating your evening meal till 7. Some people who work late, it's going to be 8. That's 7 hours between lunch and dinner. And that 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock slot of the day is the most dangerous, isn't it? Isn't that the one where all your good intentions go absolutely out the window? And that's because your blood sugar levels are crashing. So we don't want that to happen, so you're going to have an afternoon snack. So yours will be at 3:30, and then you will have your dinner at 7:30. So that's quite a nicely spaced day, isn't it? So would you just like to fill in your own now with your own examples when you have breakfast? Let's say on a weekday when you have breakfast. So when you will have lunch, when you'll have your afternoon snack, when you'll have your dinner. If you've got pens, you can always do it later.
This is when we actually, not when we should.
No, when you should have
When
it.
you-
So I
oh,
want
okay.
you to work
Okay.
out an ideal day, starting off with your breakfast and then working 4 hours to 4 hours, 4 hours. If you find that the gap between lunch and dinner is not 8 hours, then split it into 2 lots of 3.5, something like that. And if, again, there's give and take. If you're always in meetings at 3:30, 4 o'clock, then you'll have to obviously push it a little bit later or a little bit earlier. But more or less 4 hours.
I think as well, a practical tip is, I'm at work 3 days a week, and I went on, funny enough, this thing turned out to be a nutrition course. When I went, they had white bacon rolls, white bread bacon rolls, freshly done, so the whole place smelt like bacon, and Danish pastries,
Really?
and tea and coffee on arrival. And I looked at it all and thought, well, there's nothing there that I can have this week. But A, it was good because I was able to resist temptation, but I kind of also realised the temptation wasn't as great this week as it would have been
Yes.
in previous weeks because
Yes.
of the fact that we started along this route. But also, I've this week always had something in my bag that I know is a reasonable
Well
snack.
done.
Because, it's pretty miserable sat there when everyone else is eating. And just sort of socially you feel a little bit, somebody's going to say, oh, I'm on a diet like you. Whereas if you're just eating your own thing,
Yes.
so I just have those naked,
Isn't
what are they called, bars
Yeah.
or something like that, or a piece of fruit, so that I could actually eat.
Fantastic.
And I think just having a little bit of a stash in your bag
Yeah.
when you go out.
That's a very good idea.
So as you're starving, you think, oh, well, one slip up won't matter. But as soon as you've tasted sugar again,
Yes.
it starts the whole
Well, it
craving
does.
back.
And this is the problem. This is the thing. This is why I'm so very strict with sugar. I tend to not say, well, have a little bit now and again, because unfortunately, you then start this yo-yoing again. I mean, I let the reins off at Christmas. I love mince pies, and I always make the mistake of starting to eat them around about the 5th of December or something. So by Christmas, I'm well into eating sugar. And January is just such hard work to get myself back again because I've destabilised my blood sugar levels and I have to go through the whole rigmarole of stabilising them again. So I really do urge you, don't just think, oh, a little bit won't hurt, because it will, unfortunately. You will, it's like you've just shaken the pendulum and it's going to go backwards and forwards again and then start swinging.
I'm still a bit muddled up between the sugar that's in fruit and sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a piece of fruit for your snack, are you not then having sugar for your snack?
You are, and you can have sugar fruit, it's fine, but you must always eat protein with it, because there is quite a lot of fructose in fruit, some more than others, like grapes are very high in
Because they're a
fructose.
carbohydrate.
They're a
Because
carbohydrate.
carbohydrates have to be eaten with
That's
protein.
right, yes, so
Right.
that's, where is that? So one of the rules is you always need to eat protein with your carbohydrate.
I think it's on the bit. I've been using it a
I
bit.
can't see
Yeah,
it.
it is at the bottom.
Thank
It's
you.
always
Oh, yeah,
accompanied
right.
carbohydrates
That's
with the
right,
protein.
yes.
So something like yogurt or,
Yeah,
I mean, I have
exactly.
fruit and muesli for breakfast, but I always have yogurt and a little bit more.
Yeah,
That's okay.
But
So
if you're
I'm-
having fruit as a snack, you'd have
You-
some nuts.
exactly.
Oh,
Exactly, and then you won't spike your blood sugar levels. But to eat fruit on its own, on an empty stomach, is not a good idea. It is very high in fructose, and unfortunately fructose is actually possibly one of the worst sugars, unfortunately, for spiking blood sugar levels. Okay, so you've worked out your four hours in between. I want you to vary your foods as much as possible. You need to keep your geek interested, and not only does it like easy puzzles, but it doesn't not like easy puzzles, but it also gets incredibly bored when you give it the same breakfast every single day and the same lunch and more or less the same dinner. So if you stir it up, you will keep your intestines working at peak capacity, which will mean it will metabolize your food and turn it into energy rather than storing the food and laying it down as body fat. So don't get into ruts, and I am very good at sniffing out ruts, all right, and I will know if you've got back into them. So I want you to change, vary your breakfast, vary your lunches, and I'm going to give you loads of ideas of how to do that, okay? Don't get over hungry, because if you come down here, you will want to eat sugar. Don't miss meals. Very important, okay? Because you will come down here and then you'll want to stop off at the garage on the way home and get a can of Coke and a bar of chocolate. Keep to the portion sizes, which we'll go through in a moment. Avoid sugar in all its forms. I'm really sorry about this, but I cannot change the way your body responds to sugar. It really is the worst thing. But I'm going to give you all kinds of really yummy things, and as Lindsay says, you won't miss it. Avoid refined carbohydrates, so that's white bread, white rice, white pasta. Keep your fruit to 2 portions a day, but try for 5 portions of vegetables. So the government say 5 portions of fruit and vegetables. Nutritionists say 8 portions of fruit and vegetables, of which 2 or 3 should be fruit and 5 should be vegetables. Do you want to say that again? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 to 3 of fruit, 5 of vegetables. Vegetables are the medicine chest of our planet. That is where all the really wonderful things are. So we want lots of vegetables. Eat your grains in their whole brown form, so brown bread, brown pasta, brown rice. Always accompany carbohydrates with protein, which we've just talked about. And avoid or keep to an absolute minimum caffeine and alcohol. Okay. So what I'm going to say is 1 cup of caffeine a day. Once you've finished your detox, guys, because you've got another
3 days.
3 days, 3 days, 2 hours, 16 minutes to go, yeah. So once you're off your detox, okay, I'm going to say 1 cup of caffeine a day and 2 units of alcohol a week. What's 2 units?
2
2
small
small
glasses.
glasses of wine.
Could
I
you
know.
substitute it? So I don't ever drink alcohol really. So, but I could have an extra cup of tea or not.
No.
It's only 2 glasses a week though, isn't it?
Yeah. But I was
You
just
can have a
thinking,
cup
can
of
I
tea.
have something else? If I don't, because
Well,
I won't do that
one
probably.
day you can, isn't it? You know, have 2 cups of tea on one day, and then 1 cup of tea for the rest. It's only 2 glasses of wine.
Exactly.
Trying to spread it out over the week and have
Why I'm
2 cups
saying no
a
is
day.
because caffeine spikes your blood sugar levels. It does a similar thing in the body to what sugar does, because it stimulates the adrenal glands to secrete adrenaline. And oh, it's very complicated, but adrenaline makes your blood sugar spike. That's why I'm saying no. So 1 cup of caffeinated tea and the rest decaf.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with this? Is there anyone absolutely freaking out here and thinking I cannot possibly do with just 2 glasses of wine or eating?
I'll tell you why I'm not freaking out. It doesn't involve weighing anything. Well, apart from the portion sizes,
Yeah.
be a bit conscious
Yeah,
about it.
there's not much weighing. I
Yeah.
have given you weights, but I've also given you other ways of judging
Mm.
portion sizes. Yeah.
So are you saying decaf is okay? Decaf coffee doesn't count, or
No, because it's not got any caffeine in it.
completely caffeine free? Is it?
Well,
Right.
almost.
Right.
Yeah.
What about the sugar though? So if we're saying no sugar at all,
Mm.
avoid sugar in all its forms.
Okay, I don't mean mashed potatoes and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
I mean refined sugar, so cakes,
Okay.
biscuits,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
because in your chart,
honey. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of things
Yeah.
with sugar
Yeah.
aren't there?
It
Yeah.
is, unfortunately.
but in
Yes,
your chart
no,
it would look as
things.
though we had to
Yeah.
avoid
Yes.
the rice and the mashed
I
potato
understand.
and not so much the wine and
So
the
your
chocolates
rice
there.
is going to be brown.
Yeah.
Potatoes are high GI. New potatoes are lower GI than old baking potatoes. So you would eat your potatoes at lunchtime, because remember you can't have any carbs for your dinner. Yes? So you're going to have most of your carbs for breakfast, and I'll show you how you're going to do that. By lunchtime, we're talking about 1 slice of whole grain bread, or perhaps 2 or 3 new potatoes, or a tablespoon or 2 of brown rice. That's your quota. And by supper, that goes. So for supper, you're going to be having fish with lots of vegetables, meat with lots of vegetables, an omelette with lots of vegetables. Yes, all that kind of stuff. And I've got some really nice recipes for you as well, with lovely sauces to them. So it's not going to be boring, I guarantee you. So let's have a look at the meal suggestions, shall we? I've given you 6 breakfast options, and I want you to pick at least 3, and I want you to rotate them. Alright, because I need you to vary them. So option number 1 is homemade muesli, and there's a recipe there, but don't go searching for it, because basically what it is this. You get yourself a Tupperware cereal container, and then you go to the health food shop and you buy yourself some flakes, and I'll tell you why I want you to do this in a moment. So at the health food shop you can get rice flakes, quinoa flakes, barley flakes, spelt flour flakes, rice flakes, rye flakes, millet flakes, and I want you to buy 3 and you mix them all up in your container. You then get yourself a pack of mill seeds like this, and you mix them in. These are flax seeds. I'm going to recommend a mixture of flax seeds, sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. This is all written down for you in your recipe. You mix that in, you buy some nuts, you mix that in, but you don't put dried fruit in. Dried fruit is very, very high GI. Sometimes with my volunteers, they come in and they eat a handful of dried fruit, and that is the worst. I had one lady who came in, she was 5 when she had her blood sugar levels taken. By the time she was half an hour on from eating her dried fruit, she was 22. I kid you not. I mean, I think there was something seriously unstable about her blood sugar levels, but we repeated it the next week to make certain we got it right. And it was still just about as bad. So I would not recommend dried fruit. So I'm afraid you're naked, Bar Lindsay.
Oh.
That's going to
She
be
was gonna get onto
task
that.
for this week, is to
no.
get rid of
That
the
was one of the
naked
things.
But I
bars.
read the ingredients on it, and I was thinking, ooh.
They are very
Oh,
high in
gosh.
sugar,
No,
about
it's
20 grams of
Yeah.
sugar in a naked bar.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Mm.
I thought it was being
Sounds like
really
it
good.
should be
I know, and you are, because look what you've already achieved.
I've come from Angel Delight, remember? The bar was
Exactly.
low.
So naked bars, like, you know, you're an angel.
I've got a bit of a confession to make. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, are there any of those nice bars? You know,
Yeah.
like cereal
No,
bars.
there isn't. I've checked all of
No.
them. 'Cause
Oh.
my daughter Molly's allergic to cane sugar. You remember?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I have looked, and I've been in supermarkets for
Mm.
literally hours looking for stuff, and there's nothing.
None of those ones that
Literally
say
nothing.
like eat
They
healthy.
are, they're all effectively fat held together with fat.
Thank you, Gregor. They
So
really
we
are.
used to, what the company I work for, we used to make Tracker, and
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it is literally fat held together with fat,
Oh.
and covered with a nice bit of fat on the top to make
So
it
it's a
taste.
bit.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah, I'm sorry. And they do a great job of marketing them as, you know, healthy.
Yeah.
And
There are
hiding it as
less
well.
calories in a Mars bar than there is in a Tracker bar.
Mm.
The Tracker bars were that big.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, talking about calories, just go back to glasses of wine. Did you know that in one large glass of wine there are the same number of calories as a Cornetto ice cream? Yeah. Really. I kid you not. So just, I thought I'd just throw that in.
Yeah, rather than a cornetto.
All right, so you make your muesli. Now, the reason I want you to make homemade muesli rather than going off and buy Jordan's home whatever is, first of all, I don't want you having dried fruit in it. But the second of all is because every time you run out of your muesli, you go to the health food shop again and you buy 3 different types of flakes made from different grains. Every different grain has got a different set of nutrients in. So if you're always eating wheat, for example, which most of us do, okay, wheat's got a few really good things, well, quite a lot of good things in, but let's say barley is rich in, let's say, selenium, where wheat isn't. So if you keep eating wheat, eventually you start to get deficient in selenium. Whereas if you then have barley one for a couple of weeks, and then you have quinoa, which is a superfood, which means it's got loads of nutrients in for another 2 weeks, you're always making certain you've got lots of different nutrients coming in to your diet. So that's why I want you, and also your geek will stay awake and excited. So that's why I want you to do that. And then what you do instead of your dried fruit is you put with your muesli some milk or some yogurt and some berries. It's divine. It really is. Blueberries on yogurt and muesli is just gorgeous. Or chopped apple, or raspberries, or you could have some satsuma bits. Bananas, bananas are quite high in sugar, so I'm not greatly keen on it. You better have other types of fruit.
As you get rid of the pesticides.
As long as you get rid of the pesticides, exactly. Yes, we're always ducking and diving, all our modern day downside. So that's your homemade muesli. Option number 2 is porridge, okay, but again with fruit on. And again, I want you to put some seeds on, because in the seeds there is protein. In these seeds, for example, in 100 grams of flax seeds, there's 22 grams protein. That's a lot. So you've got your complex carbohydrate in your porridge. You'll make it with milk, which has got some protein in it. Remember, you've got to have complex carbs with protein. You put some seeds on top, which will give you more protein, plus some omega-6 and some omega-3, which are our essential fatty acids, which we need for our brains and our joints and our heart, for example. You've got your berries on top, which are full of antioxidants, which are anti-cancer, excuse me, and anti-inflammatory. And you've got a fantastic breakfast there. Really, really good. You've had already 1 or 2 portions of fruit of your 8 a day. Okay? So that's 2. If you're in a hurry, you could just have a pot of natural yogurt with your seeds, some chopped nuts and some berries. Ignore the smoothie, we'll talk about that next week. Eggs, wonderful breakfast fare are eggs. Eggs have the best quality protein of all your foods. So eggs I'm really keen on. Let me get this right, the World Health Organization say you can eat 8 a week rather. The British Heart Foundation say 3. Okay, so somewhere between 3 and 8 eggs a week. And you have that on your rye bread. You can also put some grilled tomatoes with it, some grilled mushrooms with it. You can put some bacon with it as well. Okay, or if you're in a hurry, just egg on toast. So there's lots of really lovely breakfasts there. Has everyone got at least 2 or 3? 2 or 3 that you can think of rotating?
Greg is allergic to egg white, so he can't have egg in its raw form, so we might need to...
In its raw form?
Can't have egg white at all unless
No.
it's processed.
Right, okay. So you're going to really have to go for the other ones, aren't you? Yeah, okay. Well, well, you could have bacon, tomato, mushrooms,
Yes, I
and rye bread toast. Look at the smile. Okay, good. So that's your breakfast, right? Let's go over to 6A. Now we're going on to lunch options. So now the carb amount is being cut down slightly. I've just given you 4 examples, but I'm going to be giving you more and more and more and more lunch ideas, because I personally find lunch the most difficult. And so many people get into the sandwich rut, which theoretically you could still do if you used your rye bread with some protein in it, but I want you to get away from sandwiches. They are so limiting and boring, and it's very difficult to get some vegetables in with it as well. So my first one I'm calling Royal Variety Salad. This was me thinking of all the things you could possibly put in a salad. Let's have a look at that. That is page 9. So what I want you to do with a salad is half of your bowl is going to be vegetables. So you can have leaves, but don't always go for lettuce. Sometimes have baby spinach, or have lamb's lettuce, or rocket, or pea shoots. Has anyone tried pea shoots? My favourite. They're gorgeous. They taste like peas, but they're like the leaves of it. Watercress, Chinese lettuce. Really mix it up. Every time you go to the supermarket, buy a different type of leaf to use as the basis of your salad. You can have grated carrot, you can have beetroot, you can grate courgettes, you can grate cabbage, cucumber, tomatoes, you can have raw broccoli, raw cauliflower. You could have grilled vegetables, for example, or roasted vegetables. You can have bean sprouts, alfalfa sprouts, which you can buy from health food shops. You can have raw mushrooms, and you can have little segments of oranges, for example. So some really interesting things there to put in a salad, and I really want you to experiment with all of this. Then you're going to have your protein. So you could, in your salad, you could put some hard-boiled eggs, for example. Or you could put some little cubes of feta cheese. You could put some little bits of ham or cold bacon. You could put some chickpeas. You could put some marinated tofu pieces. I'm going to keep banging on about these. You get them from Waitrose, and they're little cubes of tofu which have been marinated, and they taste yummy. The tofu is very high in protein. And then you've got your carbs that go with it, which would be your 2 tablespoons of brown rice, or your 2 tablespoons of brown pasta. So rather than having a pasta salad which is loads of pasta and a couple of cherry tomatoes on top and a little bit of tuna, we're turning that on its head, and we're having loads of vegetables, tuna, and a little bit of rice, as if the rice is just one ingredient in the salad. Does that make sense? You're happy with that? Do you like salads? Yeah.
Could you have a small baked potato?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay.
Have some new potatoes
New
with
potatoes.
it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The barley couscous.
3 new potatoes,
Sorry.
wasn't it? Oh, sorry.
Sorry?
3, you said, didn't you?
Yeah.
New potatoes.
3 new potatoes.
What's the normal couscous? Is that wheat? Did you say
Yes.
barley couscous?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
trying to
never
go.
seen that. Yes.
I'm trying to go a bit sort of away from wheat because people eat too much wheat. Yeah, they have breakfast for breakfast and biscuit. at
Bulgur
lunch.
wheat, okay.
Yeah.
So like a tabbouleh or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely, with lots of parsley in
Yeah.
there. That's wonderful. Parsley's
Yeah.
very good for the bladder,
Okay.
girls.
That's lovely.
And I've given you some dressings. Don't go and buy a ready-made dressing. It will have sugar in it. But olive oil is wonderful, and I'm really keen on this Herbamare stuff. If you look at dressings on the first line, it says sprinkling of Herbamare herbal salt. You buy that at the health food shop, and it's sea salt with, it's also got celery powder, garlic powder, onion powder, parsley powder, so all sorts of powdered herbs in there, and it's yummy. Or you don't need anything more because it really gives some good tastes. And also put some herbs in, put some basil in, put some coriander, that sort of thing in your, really jazz it up. You want your taste buds to be enjoying this as well as your small intestines. So that's your salad, your royal variety salad. Let's go back again to page 6A. My second suggestion for your lunch is an omelette with a small mixed salad, and there is a recipe for an omelette in there. And what I've done is suggest you make it with 2 eggs, whole eggs, and 1 egg white. Okay, the egg white tends to have less fat in it. It's less calorific than a whole egg. And what you can do is you can buy these cartons, which are just egg whites, and they're called 2 Chicks. Has anyone come across
Yeah.
those? Yeah?
Yeah, they're near the, are they near the butter section in Waitrose, aren't they?
I think in baking.
Baking
yeah.
butter pastry bit.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
It's like a carton, like a milk, the old-fashioned milk cartons, and it's just egg whites, and you can sort of measure it out into a tablespoon and put it in your omelette. It's great. It's really good. I think you don't have to sit there and do this.
Sounds a bit dubious, not coming out of the egg,
Well,
coming out of the carton.
I know.
But never fear.
Oh no,
Exactly.
it'd be pretty.
Your
pretty
toxin
good.
levels are going to go plummet so low that a little bit of something funny to keep the egg whites runny will allow that. I used to be really kind of very paranoid and strict about all this, and I had to have a bit of a talking to myself and admit that I'm living in the 21st century. Okay, number 3, soup. I know we're coming a little bit out of soup season now, but I think soups are absolutely fabulous. And I've given you a couple of recipes that you can make. If you haven't got time to make soup, and really you should have time because it only takes about 20 minutes, I make a vat of it on a Sunday night, and that lasts Ian and I for 2 or 3 lunches, really, and then I put some in the fridge as well. But if you can't make, then buy the Waitrose Love Life range. They're the only ones I could find that don't have sugar in. All your Heinz tinned ones, all your Covent Garden ones tend to have sugar and quite a lot of cream in. But the Waitrose Love Life ones don't.
500 mils is one of the. Is that one of the containers? So is it 600? I can't remember exactly what's in, but that's quite a nice portion. That is.
It's not bad, is it?
No.
Yeah, it's a good bowlful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because you see, the thing is with soup is a lot of it is water, so that's why the portion is bigger. Just a word here: if you're making soup, if you make a carb soup, which a lot of soups are, you know, your butternut squash soup, your leek and potato soup, you're going to need to put some protein with it. Okay. And there's 2 ways or 3 ways of doing this. You can either float a few cubes of feta cheese on the top of it, or you can get a cube of silken tofu from the Japanese section in the World Cuisine, I think it's called. They sell silken tofu. That's a protein. You put it into the soup, you mix it up, you whiz it up, and it makes it look creamy, doesn't taste of anything, but you've just put some protein in. So that's a way of getting around that. Or you can make protein-based soups, like chicken soup, beef, Scotch broth, I think it's got beef in, hasn't it? Fish soup, something like that. Bean soup, yes.
If you use the fresh chicken stock that you made yourself, would that count as enough protein?
No, you need some actual flesh. You do, I'm afraid. What I do is I buy some chicken thighs, I boil them in stock, and I use that with my chicken. Okay, number 4, sardines on toast. Sardines on rye bread, poached egg on toast. You know, you can do anything like that. A piece of cold chicken on a piece of bread with salad. Try and put some vegetables with your lunch, otherwise you're never going to get your 5 portions of vegetables down you. So are there things there that everyone likes? Good, you can see yourself doing that. Fabulous, and I am going to be giving you more ideas as we go along. Right, let's look at afternoon snacks, because this is your 3rd meal, and these are very important. They are on... Oh. 10.
Page 10.
Thank you. Oh, I don't have a page 10. Does everyone have a page 10?
Yeah.
Okay. See what I've done with mine. Okay, well I know them off by heart.
So it's not tea and cakes then?
No, I'm afraid no tea and cakes. It's complex carbohydrate with protein. So, 2 or 3 oat cakes, like Larry bought, with some cold chicken on, or some hummus on. Hummus has got chickpeas in. Chickpeas have protein. It's all from my you could put some cottage cheese on some oat cakes. And with that, you can always put a piece of celery, a couple of cherry tomatoes, for example. You could also have a piece of fruit with a handful of nuts, or a piece of fruit and a natural yogurt, or a natural yogurt with some berries in, for example. That's protein with your carbohydrates in your berries. Crudités, they're really nice with hummus, and I'm going to also give you some recipes for some dips. If you're really hungry, you can make yourself a little omelette, you know, or a poached egg on toast. The trick is, if you're hungry at 4 o'clock, you need to make certain that you bring your blood sugar levels back into the safe band, okay? And you've still got to get to dinner, so don't worry too much about having a little bit, you know, a little omelette. That's fine if you're really hungry and you're not going to have that much for dinner. Another idea, a piece of pear, you could wrap it in Parma ham. That's really nice,
I
actually.
like the idea of that.
It's nice,
Because
isn't
that's
it?
my weakness.
What, Parma ham?
Well, salami, all that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Most of your hams have a preservative in, which have nitrates in. And nitrates, when they mix with the enzyme in your stomach, can turn into carcinogenic compounds. This was on the telly a couple of months ago. Parma ham doesn't have any nitrates in it.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good.
And Waitrose do one called something like prosciutto crudo,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
which
Yes.
is a cheaper version of
Yeah.
Parma ham and tastes exactly the same. Yeah. So I'm a great fan of Parma ham.
Serrano, would Serrano be the same or not?
I'm not certain. I
Is
haven't looked at that.
the Spanish version.
Oh, okay. Have a look at it for me, will you? And see
Okay.
whether it's got preservatives in it. It will say sodium nitrate. Do you think it has? Yeah. I'll have a look. Serrano.
Oh, the Serrano ham?
Yeah.
No, because that's the Spanish version of
Yeah,
Parma ham,
Parma,
isn't
yes,
it?
Yeah, we don't know if it's
Yeah.
got sodium
No,
nitrate.
no,
or
I
not.
don't know with that one. I thought you said Serrano.
Oh, salami.
No, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
Stuff with it.
So that's your snacks. Dinner. Well, this is pretty easy, really. As long as you eat sort of quite traditional food. So you can have a piece of chicken with a lot of steamed vegetables, and this is your way of filling up. We're back on 6A, sorry. Back on 6A and looking at your dinner options. I've actually given you a recipe for something called Huntsman's chicken, which is chicken with a lovely tomato soup. It's got olives in, it's got capers in, and then you fill up your plate with steamed vegetables and try and choose about 3 different ones, 3 different vegetables, and again, rotate them. Don't get into the broccoli, peas and carrots rut, okay? Try a different vegetable, be brave. Try pak choi. Who's tried pak choi, for example? Yeah. Or just go and have a look and think, what haven't I tried? What about a fennel bowl, for example? Great, isn't it? Just try new things, because your small intestines will sit up and really pay attention if you put something new in. It will have to work out how to break it down, you think. Carrots it's used to.
Where does corn sit in that?
That's a
one?
carb.
Right, okay.
It's
so
complex because
Right.
it's got the outer
Yeah.
shell on. So if you're talking,
do a baby corn really, so
yeah.
you have to buy that.
as long
but-
as there's no sugar in the
Okay.
water.
Does it matter how late you have dinner?
It's better not to eat too late.
It doesn't make a great difference to this whole cycle of
Not well. The later you eat, the less you will do afterwards. So the less you will burn off of your meal. Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, we should all go out for a walk after dinner. And now it's getting lighter. That might be a really nice thing to do, and try and get the whole family to come out with you.
Oh, it's cooler as well. I wanted to
Yes.
go out earlier and it's too warm. My
Oh,
dog would not go
wasn't
out.
it?
Really?
She doesn't, she doesn't like it and it's too hot.
It's bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You had
So
to
I
keep
would have gone
reminding
this
yourself
evening,
it was
yeah.
April. Yeah.
As
It
long,
really
I don't
was.
think it's going to last though. This always happens, doesn't it?
Right, the rest of it I'm going to whiz through quickly. This lesson is always very packed, but for example on 5A you will see this. Don't worry if you can't find it. But for example with your lunch, half your plate's going to be vegetables, half protein, half carbs. For dinner, a quarter is protein and the rest is vegetables. So that's a kind of a breakdown of your plate. You've got portion sizes in there as well. Where are they? 7. Thank you. So your portion sizes, and I've also given you little ways of doing it without measuring. So for example, with your meat, it's a palm size. So men can get a bigger piece of meat than women. You're looking at about the same width and the same bigness as your palm.
I've got very big hands though.
Fabulous. Yeah. You have actually.
I have.
So
So
you-
Scandinavian milking hands.
Yeah.
Like I like 2 chicken breast ones.
No, I would say that's about 1, isn't it? Flattened-ish. Yeah?
The butcher's one every
Yeah, you're quite thick, aren't you?
One.
Your hand's quite thick. With your nuts, it's a closed handful, all right? So not a great big pile of almonds, all right? They are quite calorific. With your cheese, it's a small matchbox. That is not the cook's big ones, yeah? It's the small matchbox size. That's your cheese quota.
And we can have cheddar.
You can have cheddar, yes. Your feta and your mozzarella are your lowest in calories and fat, but cheddar's okay too. You will notice this is not a low-fat eating regime. I'm not a believer in low-fat
There
eating
wouldn't be any
regimes.
cheese on here for a start though.
Exactly. Fat is really, really important
Avocados.
for our brains, but also our hormones. So what used to happen, we're not quite so into our low-fat diets any longer, but that's only really been in the last, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Up till then, it was always low-fat diets. So you get women of about my age, in their 50s, going on these low-fat diets, and we need fat to produce estrogen. So then we produce less estrogen, we produce less serotonin, which is our happy hormone. We get depressed, and what do you do when you feel depressed? You want to eat chocolate, don't you? Because there's a big wad of fat in it. And so you break your diet. So there is absolutely no point in going low fat because it will make you depressed, it will make you tired, and all sorts of other things that I won't go into.
Can I ask you, definitely no red meat?
You can have red meat once you finish your detox.
Or once we've finished the
Yeah,
detox?
you can have your slab
And
of
it's
steak.
the same portion size as steak. So like if it's a steak, it's 100 gram steak,
Mm.
for instance.
Mhm.
Right. Or
Yeah.
lamb or pork.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good stuff. I've also given you a list of what's a carb and what's a protein, because that's quite a complicated one. That's on page 4. So you've got your carbs on the left and your proteins on the right. So if you wanted to create a lunch, for example, you could put one of those with one of those. And I also tell you which is the best ones to eat. Okay, so that's your carbs and protein. You could put that, I would put that on your kitchen cupboard, and I would also put that one too on your kitchen cupboard. That's why I put the strawberry on top, to make it look pretty for you. So you can keep referring back. Yummy. I'll tell you which my favourite is, the Huntman's chicken I've mentioned. Lemon roast salmon with pea and basil mash. This is so nice. You don't need mashed potatoes. You take peas, you boil them up in stock with some basil, then you put them in a blender and you get pea mash. It's gorgeous. Really, really nice. And you do that with a lemon roasted salmon, which takes 15 to 20 minutes in the oven. So this is fast food, this is. You can, most of the recipes I'm going to give you, you can do in 20 minutes, or the preparation time is about 10 to 15 minutes, and then it will just sit in the oven while you go off and do the ironing, for example. So this is not standing in the kitchen, spending hours preparing something. And I really recommend, especially like something like the Huntsman's chicken, you make enough for 2 nights. And then you've got some, you don't have to cook a second day. What else have I given you? I've given you chicken soup, halloumi with roasted autumn vegetables, that's really nice. The omelette recipe. There's more recipes if you go to my website, and that's what page 16 is about, www.hannahkilson.co.uk. You go, that's the home page. This is right, isn't it?
Yep,
Yeah. Buttons on the top, one says recipes, you click on that. They're divided into sections. There's a soup section, a fish section, a chicken section, a vegetarian section, an egg section. And there's lots and lots of recipes
There's
there.
also a document right at the top which says all. You can download it as a Word document, everything on there, and then you can print from that if you like.
Yeah, yeah. So lots of ideas for you there. That's not relevant. Right. This is a little chart for you to fill in. Have you all got this? This is, I don't know what this is, this is the end-ish. I want you to fill this in as you go along. I want you to tick if you drank your 1.5 litres a day on Thursday of water. Did you exercise? Yes, I did. Tick. Did you leave 4 hours between your meals? Yes, I did. Tick. Did you avoid carbs at dinner? Ooh, well, no, I didn't actually, so you don't tick there. And you can sort of see your progress as you go along. Try and aim for all your boxes ticked. Tick all your boxes. Okay, so that can go on your cupboard door again as well. And then it's just a summary at the end. Everything I've just told you, I've repeated once more. So are there any problems, any questions?
Do we start this from week 2 then, and try and remember back to week 1? Or do we start from week 1?
No, start from now.
Okay.
Yeah. No? Is everyone happy? Is there anybody thinking, I don't like any of those words? No? Good. Okay. Have you got 3 minutes to spare? I want to do a little hypnosis technique on you. Yeah? You are up for that. Is there anyone who's got to go and rush off? Okay, so you put your papers down. This this is a hypnosis for helping you to get over food cravings. Sorry. Or a visualisation.
You're right, Wendy.
Yes,
There's a hole in the side of the chair, which I didn't realise.
Oh, that one, yes, there is indeed, yeah. Okay, so make certain you're comfortable. Okay, you're sitting comfortably. So I want you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths. And I want you to think of a food that you really have a craving for. Something that I've asked you to give up, which you're going to have problems with. Your favourite naughty food. And because you'll all be thinking of something different, I'm going to call that your yummy food, okay? And I want you to imagine this yummy food. Have you all got one? Yes, yes, good. I want you to imagine this yummy food sitting in front of you on a table. I want you to see it in your mind's eye. And I want you to notice, is it right in front of you, or is it off to one side? Just notice where it is on the table. I want you to notice, is it in colour, or is it in black and white? I want you to notice if there's any smell that's coming off that food. And now I want you to bring it right close to you, and I want you to really get the smell in your nostrils. Imagine taking a mouthful out of it. What will it taste like? What will it feel like in your mouth? Really have an imaginary experience of your favourite yummy food. The thing that you're going to have problems giving up. So can you nod if you've got that all nice and clearly in your head? Now I want you to put that to one side, your yummy food to one side, and I want you to now imagine something that you absolutely can't stand. So this could be Brussels sprouts, it could be rice pudding, or it could be old garbage. It could be the mush that you get at the bottom of your recycling bin. It could be stuff that you find down the plug hole. Something really disgusting, something that really flips your stomach. And I want you to imagine it in black and white. And I want you to imagine that it's cold. And I also want you to imagine the atmosphere around it as being dark and grey. And now I want you to pull it closer to you and get a real smell of that revolting, yucky stuff. And just feel how it flips your stomach. How it makes you feel, how it absolutely repulses you. Maybe it makes you feel like you want to throw up. Right. Now I can see from your faces that you've got that nice and clearly in your mind. So now what I want you to do is bring your yummy food back in and mush the two together. I want you to put them in a blender, your yummy food and your yucky whatever it is. Put it in a blender and mix them all up together. And I want you to pour a glass of that stuff for yourself. Bring it right close and have a look in it and just see the lumps of yucky stuff floating around in the yummy stuff. And even you can imagine taking a mouthful of it. Good. You can open your eyes now. Now you can undo it. I'm not going to tell you how though until the end of the course, okay? So, and it's very, very effective. I've had some really amazing stories come back to me from people who absolutely can't give things up, and that just does it. Okay, good. So on that note, having ruined your yummy food for you, I need to weigh you all. Oh my goodness. Right, okay, let's do that as quickly as possible.